So good morning.
Good morning.
Happy March. I think we are in March, right? Okay, so yeah.
Marching right along the road of heaven.
Okay, did everybody know that March is Friendship Month?
I didn't.
March is Friendship Month. Yes. March is Friendship Month. It is. And it's our intention that every week this month to share the love of this most amazing group of people that we have here, and to share the light of God through and as each and every one of us, and to share the idea of the great and even greater possibilities available to each and every one of us, because there's a spiritual truth. And that spiritual truth is that we are all always in an evolutionary growth cycle, which means that no matter how great our lives have grown to be, no matter how available we are to experience the fullness of the God of our being, there is always more. Always more. There's always more expansion to do, and there are greater and even greater possibilities yet to explore. Science of Mind founder Dr. Ernest Holmes writes that since we are finite, yet we are expressions of the infinite, there is always more for us to express. And that's what this month is all about. So I'm happy that you're all here to experience this with us. So growing up, we all learned about the five senses, right? Some of us might have learned about the other ones earlier or later on, But for the basic education, we learned about our taste and our touch and our smell and hearing and sight. That's just going about the world. And then in 1999, when the movie with Bruce Willis and Haley Joel Osment came out, and we all learned about the sixth sense. Remember that movie, The Sixth Sense? I see dead people. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That movie scared my daughter Marissa so badly that she slept on the floor of our bedroom for 6 months. I think she was 13 at the time. Yeah, it was really something. But it was really sort of, what a twist. That was such an interesting movie. So today and next week, we're not going to delve into our sixth sense, but rather we're going to open our hearts and our minds to 6 additional senses. So we're kind of ramping the game up here. Or what we are calling mental faculties that support us in living into our greater possibilities. But before we explore 3 of them, we're going to do 3 of the 6 this morning, and then we'll do the next 3. That's why there's part 1 and part 2. Since this is Friendship Month, I wanted to say, is anyone here new to religious science? Oh, Marlene's been here before, so yeah. So, well, my next question is, think about it for a moment. Do you have a friend that might benefit from this teaching, from what we teach here and the tools that we offer and that we share, or that might benefit from being part of a new thought group that is looking into the possibilities and potentials and that sort of thing? Because we want to get the word out there that we are a religious science church or a spiritual center or community. If people don't like the idea of being called a church. And that we teach the science of mind principles and the tools that are effective in creating the life that we choose to live. So what we are is so unique and so wonderful in that we blend the spiritual philosophies, which we honor, and we have a variety of symbols. We have our symbols that we have on our, that we praise well together. And we want to put that into a bumper sticker. And I was going to put it up on here, and I didn't get it onto the PowerPoint. But what I'd like to do is put together a brochure that explains the differences of all the symbols, so that we can all see what symbols are out there and what they all mean and how they really are truly, integrated, and that we all are teaching the same thing, maybe just different focuses. So that's coming. So that's something to look forward to. And then next week we'll talk about the symbol that we have, the V, the symbol for the Science of Mind symbol. We'll go into that because that's our symbol, and how that translates into what it is we do here. So the Science of Mind is a blending of spiritual philosophies that help us to create a personal, intimate, non-intermediary needed relationship with God. In other words, we don't need anybody to go on our behalf. We can do that ourselves. And we realize that the highest God and the innermost God are one God. So the God of all and the God within us are one God. This teaching helps us take full and complete responsibility for our lives because we come to realize that we are not victims, but rather powerfully creative beings, and it helps us recognize not only our right, but our responsibility to be all that we came here to be. It's not just a right, it's a responsibility. And we, as a spiritual community, are here to support each and every one of us in opening our hearts and incubating our dreams so that each one of us can live and express the beauty and the power and the perfection of your individual divinity. So does that sound good? Mm-hmm. Are we excited to do that? Good. Then let's get started by looking at the 3 of the 6 senses, or the mental faculties that support us in living into our greater possibilities. So number 1, and I love this because we talked about this at the movie, on our movie night, is imagination. Number 1 is imagination. And as they said in the movie Your Life, Your Creation, they talked about the importance of imagination. It was Albert Einstein who said that imagination is more important than knowledge. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's huge because in this society we put so much on education and knowledge and imagination and oh man.
It's the greatest nation on earth.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Imagination is the greatest nation on earth.
I love it.
I like that. Yeah. So, okay, well let's look at this. The etymology, or the origin of the word imagination. We see that imago is used in entomology, the science of insects, to define the final perfect form of a specimen. Its deeper meaning is the natural shape of the picture of perfection. And the suffix nation comes from the Latin root meaning to be born. So literally, our imagination is our power to birth the natural shape of things or the picture of perfection.
That's what you did.
Yes. Rich had a picture, and he was able to birth that into reality. It all exists already. We just have to, we're the conduits that bring it into doing that. But we don't always use our imagination that way, do we? Rather, we use our imagination to terrorize ourselves with what if that happens? The worst case scenario of thinking, right? We'll terrorize ourselves. Mark Twain, and I'm going to put this is great. I love this. I have been through some terrible things in my life, Mark Twain says, some of which actually happened. How many times do we live something in our minds over and over and over again, and then it never happens? Wow.
In conversations I never had to have.
Yeah, I know.
Really, yeah. Those are hours, minutes, whatever, moments you'll never get back, right? Days. So how about if we used our imagination in a different way? How about if we used our imagination to birth into being the next level of becoming? Holmes writes in the Science of Mind textbook, the pent-up energy of life and the possibility of further human evolution work through our imagination and will. And we're going to get to will in the next few minutes. We can turn that off if you'd like.
No, I wanted it to spread across so more people could have.
You can enjoy the warmth, okay. The pent-up energy of life and the possibility of further human evolution work through our imagination. So what is pent-up energy? Simply put, it's spirit's urge to continually create. That is what pent-up energy is. Have you ever just felt that? Nervous energy that, like, gosh, something wants to happen here, but you're not quite sure what it is? That's spirit. Spirit wanting to create.
Say penta?
Pent up.
Like inside.
Like pent up,
but it
it's
wants to do something
held,
that-
yes.
I never heard that word.
Okay. I see it analogous to a racehorse at the starting gate. He's ready to burst through out of the gate, but he can't do it until what happens? Until they ring that little bell and the gate is opened. And then like that, he's out of there like a bat out of where, and he takes off. So where does he go? Hopefully to where's he coming from? But then the horse is going for that finish line, right? So is the pent-up energy of spirit waiting at the gate. It's waiting at the gate for us to open it. Our imagination is the bell that opens that gate. Think about that. So everything that has ever been done on this earth plane, great or small, first had its place in the human imagination. And I'll have to tell you, as I was helping my daughter study for her spirits exam, she works for Gallo and had to learn everything about how stills are made and fermentation and distillation processes and the chemistry. And in my mind, I'm thinking, who thought this up? Whoever got the idea to do this with grain or with fruit or whatever? And then, you know, all the steps up to being, you know, classified as a certain level and brand. Oh my gosh, but it all had to start. Somebody had to have the idea, had to begin in the imagination. Wow, I think people had a lot more time on their hands back then. So, anyway, Shakespeare describes the creative process like this. As imagination bodies forth the form of things unknown, the poet's pen turns them to shape and gives to airy nothing a local habitation and a name. It is a fact that imagination takes hold of what seems to be airy nothing, making something from it. But the truth is, there is really no such thing as airy nothing. There's a universal energy everywhere present, which is sensitive to our thoughts, ready to be molded and formed through the power of our imagination. We were talking about that just earlier. Thomas Troward once said, having seen and felt the end, you have secured the means to the realization to the end. Having seen and felt the end. There you have the thought and the feeling of what it is you want to see happen. A theater filled with people supporting the History Museum, Historical Society. You have secured the means to the realization of the end. So our imagination is a powerful tool, and Rhonda Byrne in her Daily Secret Teachings recently said, there is no excuse not to give 2 minutes today to intend your tomorrow. Wow. You have 2 minutes that we can give to intend what we wish to experience tomorrow? I think that's a good use of 2 minutes. And in that little bit, in just a little bit, we're going to do that. That's how we're going to end today. But first, to the second of our 6 additional senses or mental faculties, the number 2 is will, is our will. Our will is the ability to give ourselves a command and to follow it. How many of us are really good at that? Sometimes. I'm going to think this. I'm going to do that. I'm the person who is committed to this. I use my will to stay true to eating cleanly and to exercising or taking walks 3 to 4 times a week. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I argue with myself because the challenge in my thinking, it sometimes tends to go to, I really can't do this right now. I have to go. I have to get something else done. I'm so busy. Or, the mental chatter. It's like, well, there really isn't anything healthy to eat, or I don't have time to prepare something. So the will, you have to be very, very conscious of when you're arguing yourself out of what it is you have stated, what your will has said you would like to experience. Because when we empower our will, it creates incredible changes. So it is an incredible tool when we use our mental faculty of will. So remember Holmes's words in the Science of Mind book, the pent-up energy of life and the possibility of further human evolution work through our imagination and will. It's got to be both together. We can't just imagine it. We actually have to use our will. Genevieve Behrend, in her Invisible Power, wrote, visualizing, and that would be our word for imagination, without a will sufficiently steady to inhibit every thought and feeling contrary to your pictured thought would be as useless as a magic lantern without the light, or a slide projector without the light. Nothing's going to happen. On one hand, if your will is sufficiently developed to hold your picture in thought and feeling without any ifs, simply realizing that your thought is the great attracting power, then your mental picture is as certain to be projected upon your physical world as a picture slide put into a magic lantern shown on the screen. And Holmes, again, in The Science of Mind, says, the will holds attention to the mental viewpoint until the creative power has time to work through the law of unfoldment. Once you set something in motion, the law, which is impersonal, takes hold of it and creates that which we wish to experience. We use our will to be determined and persistent, not to force anything to happen. I think we've looked at willpower as somebody who's trying to force something to happen. But that's not what we use the will for. We use our will to keep our intention in check and to come back to where we are and make sure that what we are imagining, and we stay on that track. We don't let ourselves go off in the monkey mind. We use our will to stick to our imaging and our vision, and when circumstances have not yet yielded to our imagining, we use it so that we do not quit. Because sometimes we'll make a statement, we'll have an intention, and a lot of things will come at us. And I like to say that's just the universe saying, are you sure? Are you sure that this is what you want? Because a lot of times, we'll say, well, maybe not. So it's a good thing. It's a test. And once we know, yes, it is, those things fall apart, fall by the wayside, and we go forward. So I love the story of a high school basketball coach who was attempting to motivate his players to persevere through a difficult season. Halfway through the season, he stood before the team and he said, "Did Michael Jordan quit?" The team shouted no, and he yelled, "Well, what about the Wright brothers? Did they quit?" "No," hollered back the team. "Did Muhammad Ali quit?" Again, the team yelled no. "What about Elmer McAllister? Did Elmer McAllister quit?" And there was a long silence. Finally, one player was bold enough to ask, "Coach, who's Elmer McAllister? We have never heard of him." And the coach snapped back, "Of course not. Of course you've never heard of him. That's because he quit." We use our will not to quit even when our circumstances have not yet yielded to our imagining, our imaginations, and our imaging, and our visualization. That's when we use our will to keep ourselves on track. Develop your will to the degree that you can think thoughts that you want to think. And our minds can be like that bucking bronco. They can be all over the place. So you want to exercise your will so that you can give your mind a command and it will follow. When John F. Kennedy asked the premier scientist of the day, Wernher von Braun, what it would take to put a man on the moon and bring him home again safely, von Braun said 5 simple words: the will to do it. The will to do it. Wow. They already had the picture in their minds of what they wanted. They already had the vision. They just needed to have the will to see it through.
And this great scientific mind, von Braun, didn't say rocket ships and
No.
project, and none of
No,
that.
he said the will to do it. There is an extraordinary power in the imagination coupled with the will to move us into our greater and even greater possibilities. So number 3, intuition. Intuition. So finally, we're going to go into our third mental faculty, and it's intuition, which is our nonlinear intelligence system. It is our ability to have information, knowingness, ideas that are outside of our information base, of our learning up to now. They're outside of what we think we already know and where we think we would get our information. There's not one question you can ask that you can have that the mind you ask it into doesn't have the answer for. There's not one thing that you can ask that your intuition cannot answer. Sometimes it just drops in. You could do this or that. You could take this step. Be a good steward of ideas that come your way. And never judge them. Just write them down. I love this. Earl Nightingale once said, "Great ideas are like slippery fish. If they're not gaffed at the end of a pen, they swim away quickly, never to be seen again." And this is why we keep a pen and pencil. A pen and up, and now these things are coming, downloading up, and now these things are coming, downloading in. It's like, oh. And while writing them down is important, we actually have to act on them. That's part of the think, oh, wow, you know what? I kind of got this message that I wasn't supposed to do that. But if you ignore it, it's not going to do any good. Next week, I'm going to tell you about a mind-boggling experience that Genevieve Behrend had when she listened to her intuition, which led directly to her manifesting her highest and her deepest dream. So that's your hook for next week. And that her dream was to study Thomas Troward, which is one of the founding fathers of New Thought. Ernest Holmes. If you read Troward and you read Holmes, you'll see many similarities in there. He studied Troward a great deal.
So she studied with him.
She studied.
Is that what you said?
She studied,
Genevieve studied
which
with
was studied
Troward.
with Thomas Troward. Yeah,
Wow, like
Yeah.
Mary Morrissey studying with Jack Bullock.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So an infinite number of ideas can come from intuition. There's no, cutoff point. You get 10. That's it. No. An infinite number can come in through our intuition. It's been rather windy lately, and as just a little example of how it just keeps coming. And of course, I watch Rich getting the leaves out of our pool, and just as he just about gets it clean, another gust of wind comes and it fills right back up. And that's how it is. I mean, I was thinking that's a perfect analogy. That's how it is with our intuition, Clear out one and a whole new batch of intuition and ideas are ready there to come in. So it's frustrating when you're trying to get your pool clean, but it's a pretty cool thing when you're in the business of living into your possibilities. So there's so much help for your possibilities, so much power, and it's yours by birthright. It's yours by birthright. You've been given these mental faculties by the divine so that you might express life in the highest way possible. So let's take a moment right now and close our eyes. Take that deep breath in. And visualize a dream you have for yourself. What is something you have for yourself? A dream, a higher possibility. Invite your will to stick to visualizing this higher possibility for yourself and use your will to stick to it for the entire time. Now invite your intuition to guide you into the next step that you are supposed to take. What is the next step to take to see this possibility unfolding? Know that that as powerful and important these mental faculties are, there is more. There is the love of the divine that is always there supporting you, uplifting you, and empowering you. Remember that you are not alone in doing this. You are so loved. In fact, you are adored. You are the beloved in whom Spirit is well pleased. And you are supported in this journey. Know this with me now. And together we say, and so it is.